Test. 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 All right, we're going to call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, February 21st, 2022. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jamie, roll call, please.
Mark Bittner.
Here.
Jeff Delkey.
Here.
Tracy Coach.
Here.
Bill Leclerc.
Here.
Darla Leclerc.
Here.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Here.
Larry Thomas.
Here.
Adam Husky.
Here.
And Jay Remiker is excused.
All right, bringing us to number 4. We're going to do a moment of silence in remembrance of the Two Rivers High School student, Zachary Benson, who died on February 8th, 2022. So please join us as we recognize him and a moment of silence. All right, thank you for that. Zachary, his family, friends, and the entire school district of the city of Two Rivers are in our thoughts and prayers as they deal with that tragic situation. Moving on to number 5, consideration of any council member requesting to participate in this meeting from a remote location. Tonight we have one, which is Mark Bittner, who we just lost contact with. His moment of silence became real silent. All right, Mark, you back? Yeah, we're just trying to accept you here. So looking for a motion to have Mark join us from a remote location. Thank you. And thank you. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Jamie.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Larry Thomas.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we also have a public hearing, which brings us to number 6. Under A, we have a public hearing regarding a resolution of vacation and discontinuance of undeveloped pedestrian way located in the replat of Sandy Bay Highlands, Subdivision number 1. The recommended action here is a motion to schedule and waive reading and adopt the resolution. Before we get into asking any of the public, is there anything you want to address before that, Greg?
I would just note that both items A and B pertain to, as noted, a platted, never developed pedestrian way that was that's shown on paper, if you will, right at the bulb of the Highland Court cul-de-sac in the Sandy Bay subdivision. It was put there, platted there to allow for possible pedestrian access to be developed from the subdivision into Picnic Hill Park. We've gotten feedback from a number of prospective lot purchasers that they view a public way running alongside the entire depth of their lot as a negative. The Community Development Authority had previously recommended eliminating this, and this also comes with a recommendation from the Plan Commission to vacate and discontinue. The next ordinance after this is simply to amend the official map to reflect that change if approved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Opening up the public hearing. Please come up to the podium. My right, your left. State your name and address for the record. We will have 3 different calls for the public hearing wishing to speak on this. Opening up the first call. All right, closing the first call, opening up call number 2. See none, this is your 3rd and final call. All right, we will close the public hearing on that. Looking for a motion to schedule and waive the reading and adopt the resolution. Do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion?
And actually, I think that for some reason the word schedule ended up in there, but that's extraneous. So
Okay,
that was an error. Apologize for that. So motion to waive.
got it. No discussion. This is a roll call vote. Jamie.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye. I know somebody, I know that there was a letter in that it was okay to keep that pedestrian way. So that's why I'm not sure how to vote, but I'll vote aye.
Correct. There was one neighbor, not immediately adjacent to it, but on Highland Court, who had expressed to the Plan Commission support for keeping and developing the access way. That is correct.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. Bringing us to our second and final public hearing of the night, which is B, an ordinance to amend the official map of section 10-1-4 of the municipal code to abandon and remove the official map of the pedestrian way referenced in the agenda, item 6A. The motion is to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. Anything on that? That's pretty much piggybacking the same thing.
Right. This would just amend the official map to make official what you just did in the prior vote.
All right, this is a public hearing, so again, we will have 3 calls. Anyone wishing to speak on this, please step up to the podium. My right, your left. State your name and address for the record. Call 1. Closing call 1, opening call 2. Closing call 2, third and final call. Closing call 3, looking for a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Larry. Any discussion? See none, roll call vote. Jamie?
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you guys for that. Going on to number 7, which is input from the public. Anyone wishing to address the council on anything that's on this agenda or something they'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium. Again, my right, your left. State your name and address for the record. Anyone have any public input? All right. Moving on to number 8, council communications. Letters and other communications from citizens. Does any council member have anything they'd like to share on that? Jeff?
It was actually people from outside of town. They would go to some of like Piggly Wiggly or something, and they'd see the sign there for where to buy the dog shirts, but there was really no information where to get them.
For the K-9?
Yes, for the canine.
Okay.
There was no word pointing them in the direction to go or cost or anything on there. And they were just said it would be nice if people could know, because people outside the community are worried about it too, or would rather, like to help out.
Is that referenced on the website at all? Does anyone know, Chief?
Yeah, there was actually a poster that was up there that did have the pricing on there, and I think it had a note on the bottom for the PD, but we're actually creating a new poster with the new shirts. So there will be new posters distributed around, including Piggly Wiggly. And I think I'm not sure if it's on the city website or not.
I did tell them they just had to go to City Hall and they'd be able to find them, but
And Two Rivers Clothing Company has them as well as, and also Lucky Paws, so.
Okay, maybe that's something we can get under the police department's portion of the city website, just a link or some information as to where they can go for that. Larry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I had someone reach out saying there's still some audio issues with Facebook Live, that there's still, it sounds like all of the microphones are muffled while they're listening.
Muffled. Okay, well, we have our IT department back there, our trustee services. I'm sure they will take a look at that. Rick's pretty good, so we'll get that addressed for anyone that's having hearing issues with the muffled microphones.
I have something.
Bonnie?
I had, somebody called me a while back or emailed me, and I was waiting for this day to say it. The dog park people will be very supportive of your canine, and they thought it would be nice to have a demonstration or something at the dog park. And it could maybe even be a fundraiser. That dog park has a fenced-in area, so the other dogs won't bother him. And the owners of those other dogs will say, you see, that's what you're supposed to be like. That's it.
Anybody else? Thank you, Bonnie.
That'd help with canine officer recruitment, huh, Bonnie?
I don't know where he is.
Go get them.
Anything else? That's it? All right, on to number 9. Council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Anyone have anything they'd like to report from a committee or board that they stand on?
Adam, I got just a couple of things.
Okay.
The first one is our Main Street Design Committee. We closed out round 1 of our sign and facade grant program. And I know we're going to be talking about that more here in a little while. Just so you know, round 2 is coming up very quickly. So if anyone's interested, get in touch with us right away. As far as murals, a mural is almost done on the front of Seeds and Beans. And weather permitting, as soon as the weather is good, the mural on the south side by Family Video, the old Family Video, they will be starting on that. If you want to see a rendition of what the mural is going to look like, go into Seeds and Beans, and he's got a rendering there. But it's going to take up the entire wall, but it's basically a history of Two Rivers. And then another thing that we're starting on is another mural project, which is going to be the first series is going to be a Legends mural project. It's going to be 8 by 8 foot murals that artists can paint over the winter. And there's some areas in town where they can be put up. What's nice about this is when the theme of the murals changes, we can change out the murals. And what we're starting off with is our Legends series. And basically that's going to focus on like Brian Lee, J.E. Hamilton, the Schmidt brothers. There was an Olympian from Two Rivers back in the 40s, and I can't remember his name, but we're going to have him. And these are the ones that we're looking at. And then also there was, I think his last name was Andrew. He was a Purple Heart recipient. And we have a lot of pretty well-known people from our community. So we want to celebrate them. And so look for that next year when they're put up.
Are there any plans for locations on those?
We've identified some possible locations, and we're going to talk to the building owners.
Okay.
But it's not, the murals will not be painted directly on their building. This is something that you put it up, you can take it down easily. So I think they'd be more open to that. And also, just so you know, the hanging baskets, the plants have been ordered. This year it's going to be hot pink petunias so we can see them. And we're also going to have our banner art project again. And so be looking for that. We will have a call to artists. So if you're interested, just keep an eye out for that. And it would be nice to get who's interested to get their art up in our community. The one last thing is our EAB, an Environmental Advisory Board. We just had a meeting last week, and we had a brainstorming session, and it went really, really well. We're going to be moving forward with more green infrastructure, not just suggestions and not just talking about it. We want to get some examples out into the community and get the information out to citizens so they can perhaps do the same thing. We're also focusing on trees, the benefits of trees to homeowners. And there's actually quite a few. We want to encourage planting of trees. There are some incentives out there, and we're finalizing all of that. It's the Environmental Advisory Board has a lot of things going on right now. And once things really break loose, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about them. But Jeff, he's on the committee. Did you want to say anything about that?
Oh, we have a lot of good ideas coming up.
It's a good group of people. So that's all I have.
It sounds like that's coming along, and a lot of good things from Main Street, especially coming up this summer. Should be nice. Anybody else have anything they'd like to report on before we ask Mark? No? Mark, do you have anything?
The only thing, Mr. President, is we did have a Personnel and Finance Committee meeting last week, and the committee unanimously supported some changes and the development project for the new apartments on Forest Avenue. And more details will probably be provided will be presented to the council, and the final vote on the TIF amendment will be made by council.
Okay, thank you, Mark. All right, then we're going to move on to number 10, which is the city manager's report. And I think there's just at least a few people here that want to see the dog. So
We have some special guests from both of our public safety departments. First up, I'd like to invite Chief Colemire up for some special introductions and a swearing in. And there might be some shaking of hands or paws involved too.
All right, thank you. So it was almost a year ago that we started this project. We got a sizable donation from a past council member that passed away. Also a sizable donation from someone who's in the audience here tonight, Luann Smith, she's here. So about a year ago, we started it. We started the fundraising, got to the point where we could purchase a dog, and here we have Zante. We selected a handler, Officer Lottie, Andy Lottie. And they went to training in the beginning of January, all through the month of January, and then graduated their training course, both of them, at the end of February. Got out onto the road, their first action, backed up an officer from another jurisdiction that stopped a car in Two Rivers. Officer Lottie and Zante went over there and found some cocaine and some drug paraphernalia on the first outing. So excellent job for both of them. But tonight, we're here to swear in Zante, our first canine in the history of Two Rivers Police Department. So we're very proud of both Officer Lottie and soon-to-be Officer Zante. We also have a few other people in the audience. Imagine a number of them here for the dog and also for the firefighter. But we have Andy's son, daughter, his mother, her sister, and Andy's sister as well that are also here tonight. So with that, Jamie, you're up. Up to you if you want to go around or not. He's going to bring Zante around back around to you. Yeah.
Gonna come up? City council member.
He's watching everybody.
Watching?
So when we said part of our presentation about canine being a super huge morale booster, I think you just kind of saw it right there. I mean, it's awesome to have him walking and running through the police department. He's just a great dog and very friendly, as you can see, but he knows how to take care of business when it's necessary too. So.
Will you name him Officer Lapdog?
Done something on the city attorney up there. Pup, so he's definitely a puppy.
Awesome. Welcome to the team.
Oh, I even. Oh, there you are. Oh, there you are. Can you shake? That's what we usually do, we shake hands.
with you.
The money is.
Last time. Had some more.
Andy was just describing that Zante is a purebred German Shepherd, and his he speaks German, so all the commands are in German. Andy, we just need you to sign the book over here then. Need you to sign.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, council. Appreciate you having us.
Yep, thank you.
Well done.
Adam. Say something?
Sure, go ahead. Jeff?
I'd really like to thank everybody that donated for this. It's really amazing when the community comes together, especially, you know, when one of the first big donors was Luann Smith. I'd like to thank you too. Luann, you wouldn't want to get up and say a few words, would you? Would you like to say a few words? Me. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Rochelle, you want to say anything? You're just going to take pictures? Again, thank you everybody that donated. It's amazing.
Thanks again, everybody, for being here for that acknowledgement, and as council has said, for the great community generosity. Next up, I would like to invite Chief Denzine from the fire department forward. We don't make dogs pass their probationary period before they come in and are honored at city council. Not the case with firefighter paramedics. So we have a special anniversary to note tonight. Over to you, Chief.
Very true. So a little over a year ago, we had Richard Barbier come to us from the city of Manitowoc. I should probably yell at you right away. No licking. Just throwing that out right away. But we were very fortunate. We had an opening at the time. Richard was the top candidate, and we have been very blessed to have him. The amount of knowledge and experience that he's brought has been fantastic. And we do this because passing probation is kind of a big thing. So when we come into the fire service, usually we get a pretty green individual that not only we show them how that we operate, but how the fire service operates, how to treat people, things like that. And unfortunately, we really couldn't give Richard too much of a hard time because he knew all the tricks already. So it was kind of disappointing. But he's actually come to us and been such an asset, brought just tons to us. And it's been a fantastic experience. So when somebody passes probation, we not only give them a black helmet and black shield, but we also give them a badge. They don't get a badge up until this point. So Richard, we'd love to have you come up, and I'm not going to pin it on you. I think you're going to have your sister. Yeah. So he's actually already been sworn in, so we're going to forego that formality, but having the badge pinned is kind of a big event. So I will give this to you. The pin is off.
I don't know how I can compete. You know, you have the dog up here.
Don't start scratching.
All right. Mercy.
It's not workers' comp if it's family.
Congratulations, Richard. Welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Coming to tour? Much appreciate. You know, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I had said we'd wait till later in the agenda, but we do have a resolution tonight honoring the Police Officer of the Year. Maybe it would be best while we're up front and the two chiefs have been presenting. That would be, if the council doesn't object, to consider item 12G, page 201.
Okay, so we're gonna move 12G under city council formal items. We're gonna move G up into the city manager's report unless there is objection from anyone on council. Is there any objection? All right, then let's move right on to 12G, Chief Colemire.
Resolution of commendation acknowledging and commending selection of Lieutenant Karen Elson-Peter as the Two Rivers Police Officer of the Year. Whereas Karen Elson-Peter was hired as a part-time police officer in March of 1993 with the Two Rivers Police Department and later hired full-time in October of 1994. Karen then promoted to lieutenant in 2002. Karen holds a bachelor's degree from Silver Lake College, completed her law enforcement academy at Fox Valley Technical College, and is a graduate of Northwestern University's School of Police Staff and Command. And whereas annually, the Two Rivers Police Department awards an Employee of the Year award for a police officer or police employee in the city of Two Rivers. And whereas the Officer of the Year Award 2020 was presented at a dinner held on January 19th, 2022 to Lieutenant Karen A. Elson-Peter. And whereas Lieutenant Elson-Peter was selected for this honor based on her personal commitment to the police department and the community in numerous respects, including Karen Elson-Peter was nominated for professional public service and for routinely going above and beyond the basic job expectations. Her nomination was reviewed by all the supervisory staff of the department, and she was unanimously selected as the Officer of the Year. Karen Elson-Peter was specifically nominated because Karen is always positive and she is never heard complaining. Karen genuinely cares for those she works with and routinely helps out others and their families. And Karen is always there to help and will drop whatever she is doing, letting others know that they are important and respecting others' needs. Karen Elson-Peter is best known for her full dedication to this department and her profession and her unwavering delivery of professional and outstanding service. Her years of experience, knowledge, and ability are clearly evident to all she works beside. Karen Elson-Peter is a two-time recipient of the Officer of the Year Award, receiving her first in the year 2000. And she is the third Two Rivers Police Department member to have achieved this honor in the history of the award. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Two Rivers to express its appreciation to Lieutenant Karen Elson-Peter for her exemplary work in the Two Rivers Police Department and ultimately for the citizens of Two Rivers. And be it further resolved that Lieutenant Karen Elson-Peter is provided with a copy of this resolution adopted this 21st day of February, 2022.
All right, thank you. She's also a pretty good basketball player, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, she is.
She's
And
pretty
I
good at
just
that.
had one thing, if you don't mind. You noticed that it was 2020 and we are in 2022. We've been backed up quite a bit because of COVID. We have to cancel the whole 2020 situation. So that pushed the 19 into almost the end of 20, beginning of 21. And so we're finally getting kind of caught up. So that kind of explains that.
Very good. This is a action item for council, so I'm looking for a motion to adopt this resolution. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Bill. Any discussion? All right, this is a resolution which calls for a roll call vote. Jamie?
Carla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinas,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey,
Aye.
Mark Bittner, Jeff Jeff Delkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Back to the city manager's report.
Okay, it's a brief one tonight. Under the heading of, staffing updates, I'm pleased to announce 2 appointments tonight. We all know that Ross Blaha, who's done an outstanding job for the past 7 years as our water utility director, is retiring in June. We've been actively recruiting for the position, and I'm pleased to announce tonight the appointment of Andrew Sukawati, who will start work on March 7. So there'll be some overlap between his time and Ross's at the utility. Andrew currently serves as water distribution superintendent for Manitowoc Public Utilities. He's been with that utility for 10 years, starting as a meter reader, working his way up through the ranks of plant operator, and for 2 years now has been in charge of their water distribution operations. He's certified in both water treatment and distribution and brings a wealth of experience to the position. Andrew also has an associate's degree in civil engineering technology from Northeast Wisconsin Technical College and a bachelor's in applied studies in organizational leadership with a minor in public administration from UW Green Bay. I think it'd be a great addition to the water utility, carry on the exemplary work that we've seen under Ross's leadership. The DNR is happy with our operations down there. We've been able to control costs and have been making major inroads on the deficit the utility had built up. We expect to see those trends continue. As you may know, we have a number of retirements coming up this year in the water utility. So Andrew will also have the opportunity in many respects to build his own team down there with some 3 positions that will be turning over within the next year. So we welcome him aboard, and I haven't checked on his night schedule for March 7, but we'll plan to have him here the night of March 7, 21st at the latest for a personal introduction. He may not be as popular as the dog was tonight, but we'll all be mighty glad to see him just the same. Also, we have a new city electrician, Tyler Dusing. Tyler will be starting February 28. He is currently electrician and maintenance person for the Two Rivers Public School District. He has served an electrician apprenticeship through Faith Technologies. He's getting ready to sit for his master electrician exam, and we feel very good about our new electrician coming on board in the electric utility. And I know Brian Delman worked very closely with Jamie in the recruitment and review of candidates for that position. So we still have some vacancies to fill. Application deadline is this Friday for the senior center supervisor position. We have a number of what appear to be well-qualified applicants. We are already advertising for certified water operator to fill upcoming retirements. We've advertised those positions, 1 initially, but 2 in fairly short order, as open until filled, with the first review of applications to be those received by March 7, Monday, March 7. Chief Colemire has spoken in the past to police department vacancies. We have 5 patrol vacancies presently. There have been some outstanding candidates identified who will be graduating in May. I think, Chief, we have 2 or 3 of them, 2 now working as part-time for the city right now. We look forward to them joining the full-time ranks of the department. And also applications just closed, I believe, for the efforts at doing some recruitment of experienced officers with the ability for lateral entry and a signing bonus, which was a first for the department, but not unusual. It's what you're seeing police agencies doing out there to try to recruit talent. And we have had some, historically, some success with lateral entry from other agencies. So stay tuned on that. It's just tough all over when it comes to recruitment of police officers.
Did we get any applications on that? They were due Friday, right? We got some. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's some that look pretty good there.
Good.
And then very late breaking news as of last week, our Parks and Rec director has announced she's taking a new position. We had ads out within a couple days after that, and first review of applications will be for those received by next week, Friday, March 4th. Terry Vosters, our current Parks and Rec Director, has accepted the position of Community Enrichment and Recreation Director with the City of Kaukauna. Her last day with the city will be Friday, March 11. Appreciate that Terry did give us about 6 weeks' notice before leaving the position. We've tried to talk her out of it. We've tried to encourage her to. You could live in the valley and drive over here, but it's a good opportunity for her, and we certainly wish her all the very best. The only photo I could find of Terry before tonight's meeting, real quick, was her initiating the new zip line over at Neshota Park last summer. So we thank Terry for the great job she's done. And she and some of her other staff are at Wisconsin Parks and Rec Association conference tonight, or she would be here.
And she's got a birthday tomorrow. Wish her a happy birthday.
We'll wish her that as well. We'll get her back in here so we can all say goodbye to her properly before she leaves. If you've wandered down by 20th Street and the East Twin River, you'll see there's a mighty deep hole in there, which is amazingly dry for how deep it is and how close it is to the river. I expect the ground being frozen really, really hard doesn't hurt. That is the 20th Street stormwater pond. It's on the northerly third of the former Eggers plant site, purchased by the city. The southern 2/3 of the site, as you know, is being marketed for redevelopment. We have some interest there from folks looking at market rate downtown housing. They were kicking up dust over there pretty good today, as shown in the photo. The pond, as shown in the map on the left, will serve an area of about 40 acres between 17th and 22nd Streets. Basically on the west side of the East Twin River, Part of the intent in developing any of our ponds is to reduce the amount of suspended sediments and other suspended solids and other contaminants going to the rivers. In the downtown area, we expect this pond will have the added benefit of eliminating the need when redevelopment happens for dealing with on-site stormwater management, which would, in the downtown area, could chew up some pretty valuable space on some of the parcels in the area shown. You'll note it does include the north half of the former Hamilton property down as far as 17th Street on the south. So that's coming right along. The 4-foot thick clay liner that goes in the bottom of the pond is spec'd to come from the large pile of clay at the north end of the Sandy Bay subdivision. So I expect we'll be waiting until it's a little warmer than it is out there tonight for them to haul and spread the clay, but it's coming along. We have bids out for the 17th Street reconstruction project, highlighted in yellow here from East Park Street to Jefferson, and also east of the bridge from East Street over to Zlatnik Drive. The bids are open February 23rd. The project involves reconstruction of the street and replacement of 31 lead water service laterals. Also on Wednesday, the city is opening bids for replacing 50 lead water service laterals at scattered locations around the city, and for a new screw press for dewatering of sludge at the wastewater treatment plant. I know that's been discussed at the Utilities Committee. Any of the lead service lateral replacement, we expect part of it to be funded through the state's Safe Drinking Water Program, which will again be providing us principal forgiveness to help with private side replacement. And then the public side replacement, which is the city's responsibility, we expect to fully fund between the city's American Rescue Plan allocation, ARPA allocation of $1.3 million, and the county's offer to match our expenditures for lead service lateral replacement out of the county's ARPA dollars. So this won't consume all of it. With any luck, those two funding pots should take care of about 350 to 400 service replacements, but we don't want to bite off too much this year because of some of the supply chain issues we've been running into. Want to make sure there are enough valves, enough contractor capacity, and we do have another 4 years to commit that money. As Darla mentioned earlier, the Main Street Design Committee has approved and the Main Street Board has endorsed 2 facade grants to help downtown businesses with facade work. There was approval of a $10,000 facade grant for Hook Lanes and Games. Tim Klein, the former Rudy's Lanes, $10,000 toward what's projected to be $41,000 he'll be spending on the facade of that building. And Cool City Brewing, $10,000 toward $77,000 that's identified as the facade cost on that roughly $2 million project. The city will be providing partial funding for these from monies approved by the council in this year's budget. Actually, we have some of that money in TID 8, the old high school TIF district. That we can spend money within half a mile of that district. That reaches down Washington Street far enough that the city funds for hook lanes and games can come out of TID 8. Cool City Brewing is further south, but we have a second pot, if you will, of money, $20,000 the council approved in Fund 290, the Economic Development Fund, and that can take care of the city portion of that facade grant. And as Darla mentioned, there is a round 2 of facade grant applications coming up, with those applications due April 4. And I know Roger from Main Street has got at least 1, maybe 2 interested parties there.
Greg, I just wanted to say something about that too. If there's any monies that aren't spent from the pot, what we're looking into doing is having like a mini fixer-upper program where it would be, you know, some places in the bid district, maybe a fresh coat of paint, you know, like around the door, like the door frame, or, you know, just to spruce it up. And so we want to work, we've got some locations identified where it wouldn't cost a lot of money, but you look at everyone who could do a little bit to their property, and it just makes the entire area look much better. So we're still working out the kinks in that, and I don't know what else to call it except a mini fixer-upper.
And we'll be talking later on today's agenda, council will, about possible facade grant assistance for properties located outside the Main Street service area, outside the business improvement district that funds Main Street. Because we also, as we know, we have businesses in those areas and some that have plans to make improvements. As Mr. Bittner mentioned earlier, we've been working to try to finalize the assistance to be provided by the city to 3000 Forest Avenue LLC, the group that is proposing 45 units of market rate apartment housing on the former Hanson the Florist property. These are facade renderings of what their buildings will look like. There'll be 3 of these. Of course, the garages will all face away from the street in other directions, but the side with all the windows and the patios and balconies will face Forest Avenue. And likewise, there'll be a face like that looking back toward the wooded wetlands behind the site. Then there'll be a third building with garages facing the inner courtyard, if you will, and front facing outward toward the stormwater pond that's a little further removed from the site. Assistance for this project was anticipated when the city council and the Joint Review Board approved tax incremental district number 15 last year. We brought the proposed assistance package to council a few weeks ago. There were some questions and concerns at council. We took it back as staff. We took it back to the Personnel and Finance Committee to work through details. We had a meeting about 2 weeks ago where the Personnel and Finance Committee came back with a counter that was meant to reduce the amount of TIF assistance, also reduce the amount of time that the TIF's revenues would be tied up solely with assisting this project. The developers considered that counter, came back, not surprisingly, with another counter, which didn't match what the committee had recommended in all regards, but represented significant movement from the original proposal that was endorsed unanimously by the Personnel and Finance Committee last week, Thursday night. Council will be discussing that proposed funding in closed session tonight with the opportunity to reconvene and vote on it in open session. That won't be the final action on the development assistance for this project, but if council gives the direction as to the financial piece, how much money and how it's to be structured, we'll then proceed as staff to develop the final development agreement around those terms. And our goal is to have that back here in front of council on March 7th. So be nice to see some progress on that site. That has been a priority redevelopment site officially since the 2010 comprehensive plan. If my memory serves, Hanson the Florist has been closed since 2004. So that site has been sitting idle for a long time. The fundraising continues for the Central Park West 365 project. I heard from private parties today that called our office with donations of $1,000 and $5,000 respectively. Those are good calls to take. And if this works right, when I click this button, you'll see a sort of a fly-through view of the model for the park, consistent with the concept plan that the council endorsed a couple of months ago. And it works. This is kind of the low resolution version, but for your viewing pleasure. Back at the south end of the park, heading north again. Space. Pavilion building, restrooms and rentable community room. The pavilion patio, which already has sponsorship, we'll announce shortly. Lawn area headed for the bandstand. It's about 1.5 times the size of the current lawn seating area. Bandstand where the benches will be on concrete instead of getting moved around the park all the time. All 13 benches are spoken for with donations as of today. And then the view from the stage out across the park.
Looks very nice. Thanks for sharing.
Yep, we'll get that on social media as well. Would remind folks that the League of Women Voters of Manitowoc County is sponsoring or organizing a Two Rivers City Council candidate forum that'll be held here in council chambers this Thursday, February 24 at 6:30 p.m. Folks are welcome to come here and watch in person. You can also watch it on the City Hall Facebook page where it will be live streamed, or it will be archived on the City of Two Rivers YouTube channel. You can, whoops, sorry, I spelled spectrum wrong there. Spectrum, must be German for the dog. Spectrum channel 993 on cable. And a little further out in the future, the Two Rivers Business Association will be hosting a candidate forum on Thursday, March 10 at 6:30 p.m. I expect that one will be available for viewing in the same manner. And lest we forget, the election itself is on Tuesday, April 5th. There are three-year terms up on the council with 6 candidates running for those 3 seats, and 1 2-year term, which is termed a special election because it's filling the remainder of what was Kurt Andrews' term, which Larry Thomas has been appointed to serve out that first year. So that 2-year term gets listed separately on the ballot, and there are 2 candidates for that position. So again, League of Women Voters Candidates Forum here Thursday night, 6:30. You can watch it on cable, Facebook, or the Two Rivers City YouTube channel. Lest we forget, yes, 606 Parkway Boulevard is still under contract. The contract purchaser, Art Dumke, whose entity is Trivers LLC, has shared that his due diligence activity is being wrapped up this week. I know he had representatives over going through the building again today with Ross Blaha, our water utility director. The due diligence period under our purchase agreement does end technically next Sunday, the 27th. Art's attorney in an email today indicated he'll be in contact with the city about a closing date by the end of this week. I don't talk about this one too much because we've all learned to be cautious or maybe a little superstitious, but so far so good. And you'll be the first to know when we hopefully get the word. Elizabeth Runge, our community development director, last week completed an application for the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation's Idle Sites Grant Program, applying for the maximum grant award available of $500,000 to assist with the renovation of this facility. I believe in addition to purchase price, the purchaser has indicated a total rehab budget on the order of $5.2 million. So Mr. Dumke's got some great experience in this area of redeveloping older facilities, and that seems to be a serious, realistic look at things that need to be done at this facility. So I just thought it was worthwhile to mention that. We haven't forgotten about it, and we are approaching some deadlines. I just would remind everybody that we continue to work to have the most comprehensive, up-to-date information on Two Rivers events and activities on explore2rivers.com. And with this beautiful shot from Jeff Dawson, with an eagle in the foreground and a lake boat in the background, that pretty much wraps up my report. I did want to share, picking up on Darla's comments about Environmental Advisory Board. We will be submitting a pre-application to a program called Sustain Our Great Lakes for some possible funding assistance. Pre-apps are due by next Monday, February 28. Full applications in April. We'll get more information back to council before doing a full application. But what we're looking at there is the potential to get some planning money to develop a master plan for the city-owned lakefront properties from the Chamber of Commerce, just into Manitowoc, all the way to Roosevelt Avenue, the areas that the city now owns after acquiring a lot of the property out there from the county and DOT 2 years ago. That plan will look at public facilities like restrooms, parking areas, tourism facilities. It will also look at invasive species control, where the volunteers are always hacking away at honeysuckle and other invasives that come up between the rocks there. Probably every bit as important, though, in the near term, it will seek funding for a whole lot of dune grass and some low-growing junipers and other things to get that sand under control. We all were hoping the lake would go down. It did. And we know we've got a real challenge out on Memorial Drive with the wind-blown sand. So if we can help Mother Nature hasten revegetating that area and keeping the sand where we want it instead of in and across Memorial Drive, that would be a good thing. The other thing, Elizabeth and I think, I guess, Darla, you weren't able to join us Thursday, right, for that? Oh, maybe you are, for a Zoom meeting with staff from the Fund for Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaways Mayors Group. They are looking to develop a list of projects that their two groups would advocate for funding for that involve shoreline restoration. And we've talked about at EAB, a project that has been in our was in our waterfront master plan that was adopted in 2013 that would address the beach next to the South Pier, basically from the lighthouse in to the South Pier, with maybe some shoreline restoration there, development of green infrastructure to handle runoff from the public works and utility facilities, developing that area as not with a big parking lot, but as an area the public could access as another recreational beach. Because once you get back there, it's a beautiful chunk of beach. It's just mighty hard to get to, and right now not in the best of shape. So we'll have that conference call on Thursday. There's a real variety of funding coming down for Great Lakes restoration initiatives, and we at least want to be sure that Two Rivers is in a good position to make use of those funds, provided it makes sense for the community. So stay tuned on that.
Right, could I just ask, do you think about acquiring money for surge reduction in the harbor?
Yeah, I have been in touch with Senator Baldwin's office, notably, but also with Glenn Grothman's office and Senator Johnson's office about funding. They are working on an appropriation in the next regular budget for that engineering study we've been pushing for about 5 years, to basically take a look at how the harbor is designed today and try to make the argument, which I think we can, that it's the way the harbor is oriented with very little breakwater protection into Lake Michigan that makes us so vulnerable to surge. So while we weren't able to get an earmark for it in any of the special spending bills, that's still being pursued through the budget process. we've had 2 letters of support from the Corps of Engineers, Detroit District, now Chicago District, signed by Senators Johnson and Baldwin and Representative Grothman for 2 years in a row, and so far haven't been able to score that funding. I was in touch and reminded them because Kewanee was just very fortunate, Kewanee or Algoma, to get $17 million for reconstruction of their South Pier, all as a federal earmark. So spread a little more of that down the lake. Yeah, that's all I had, Mr. President.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Okay, maybe no. All right, thank you for that report. Just a couple of things. On Paragon, a sincere thanks to staff. I know Ross has spent a great deal of time down there, as had Brian from our water and electric departments, and assuring or getting there to help Mr. Dumke and his partners out with that redevelopment, showing them around, letting them in, so on and so forth, answering questions that they have. So a great deal of thanks to them. Greg and Elizabeth also spent a lot of time, and some people take for granted the fact that we just said, hey, we submitted an idle sites grant, like woohoo, big deal. There's a lot of work that goes into that, and Elizabeth has really worked her butt off to make sure that goes through and timely to make sure that this development can hopefully happen. So hats off to our staff for doing an excellent job on the Paragon building. Also, was there any update as far as where we stand for the Central Park West project? Or are you kind of holding off on that?
I'd like to hold off one more regular
Okay.
meeting if I could.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
We're looking at, I should mention too, I didn't have a lot under legislative update, but the league did come out with a legislative update today. And I believe the additional funding for EMS, notably boosting not only Medicaid funding, but funding for additional staff and training is headed toward the governor's desk. And they expect with the legislature in session this week that the bill I mentioned on allowing historic fill that has happened along the Great Lakes and on urban rivers like our 2 rivers that flow into the Great Lakes to be considered upland instead of lake bed, which is important for redevelopment purposes. That looks like it's on a good track to head out of the legislature to the governor's desk. And I didn't put it on tonight's agenda, but out of my office with copy to the council, we will send a letter to Governor Evers urging signature of that bill when it hits. We just got a letter today from the league, or an email, I'm sorry, from the mayor of Sheboygan, who's been spearheading that effort. So great, join in on that.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right, on to 11, which is our consent agenda. Under A, we have a presentation of minutes. We have 1, which is the regular city council meeting for February 7th, 2022. The recommended action there is a motion to waive reading and adopt the minutes. Under B, we have minutes of meetings. There are 7 there. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under C, department reports for January of 2022. We have 11 of those, and the recommended action there is a motion to receive and file. D is a summary of verified bills for the months of December 2021 for $1,542,907.58. And January 2022, those bills amount to $4,468,141.18. The recommended action there is a motion to receive and file. Under E, we have a request for a conditional use permit for a drive-through service window at the Two Rivers Senior Center, 1520 17th Street in the B1 Business District, submitted by the City of Two Rivers property owner. The recommended action there is a motion to schedule public hearing for March 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. as recommended by the Plan Commission meeting on February 14th, 2022. F is a request for a change in zoning to planned unit development and proposed development plan for the construction of a multifamily residential development at 3000 Forest Avenue, submitted by ARC and Lawrence Hansen, property owners, and Edward Fisher, agent for the potential buyer. The recommended action there is a motion to schedule public hearing for March 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. as recommended by the Plan Commission meeting on February 14th, 2022. And finally, G, a zoning code correction, text amendment to include conservation subdivision as a conditional use in the R1 and R2 residence district. Recommended action, motion to schedule a public hearing for March 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. as recommended by the Plan Commission meeting on February 14th, 2022. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Do I have a motion?
Make
So
the motion.
moved.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Darla. Any discussion? See none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to 12, which are the city council formal items. Under A, we have a discussion item, a local regulation of 5G facilities, page 148 in your packet. We also have Tiffany here from Insight, I believe. Is that correct? Okay, and she's going to take the lead on this, I believe. If you want to,
Just to, yeah.
if you want to introduce us, Greg, and then on to.
Quick intro, if I might. Councilmember Thomas had requested this item be on the agenda as an information item. We know there's interest out in the public as far as the rollout of 5G, which we're seeing not just here in Two Rivers, but around the country and around the world. I just put a very basic cover memo together with some related documents, which is in the council packet. It's worth noting that the city's ability to regulate placement of small wireless facilities within the public street rights of way or on utility poles owned by the city, by our electric utility, and located in the right of way, and what fees can be charged for placement of facilities by telecom companies in the right of way and on our poles is significantly limited by FCC regulations and Wisconsin law. The FCC issued their so-called small cell order in 2018. It took effect January 2019. It imposed significant limitations on the ability of local governments to regulate placement of small wireless facilities, and that's all in the interest, right or wrong, it's in the interest of facilitating the rollout of the next generation of cellular communications technology in an efficient manner where the carriers from a federal and state perspective aren't dealing with individual municipalities and the regulations they might otherwise choose to enact. 5G technology, I'm no expert on this, but clearly 5G isn't a measurement of anything. It's the next generation, the fifth generation of cellular technology. It offers faster speeds and more capacity than on existing systems. And that's not just for our phones and our internet browsing or online gaming, but for all of those linked devices, whether it's our home security systems, health monitors, equipment that monitors industrial and agricultural activities, the so-called Internet of Things with all the interconnected machines that talk to one another. 5G technology requires a network of small cell wireless facilities. Ultimately, we expect to see those placed in much closer proximity to one another than the other facilities that have been used for 4G. I mentioned the federal small cell order. Wisconsin, like most states, has also adopted legislation to streamline permitting and regulations related to 5G facilities. That was Act 15 of 2019. We've got a statutory citation there. Established uniform rules for installing so-called small cell nodes. And I attached a copy of the statute there. Related to this, the City Council in December of last year adopted a new ordinance on wireless communication facilities in the right-of-way. That's in section 4114 of our Code of Ordinances. It was prepared by the Boardman firm out of Madison, working with the municipal electric utilities of Wisconsin. And the indications we have is that that ordinance allows the city about as much control as is permitted under state and federal law. And there was the opportunity for public input on that ordinance. The ordinance does include aspects of such installations the city can regulate, like the height at which an antenna can be installed, the size of the antenna, no more than 3 cubic feet in volume, the size of any associated equipment, which sometimes you'll see nearby at ground level, And, but there are limits, very real limits on what the city can do. There have been concerns raised about possible health impacts of radio frequency energy from 5G, just as there are concerns raised about city transformers on poles, people's cell phones and other things. Frankly, those aren't something we have the ability to regulate at the local level. The FCC has standards. There's been a lot of discussion about I think some litigation about the feds reevaluating those standards. I had attached an article from the American Cancer Society. I'd be sure to tell you, if you go out on the internet, you can find all kinds of conflicting information about about radio technology or what radio waves. Somebody has asked, well, you know, what does the city get out of this as far as revenue? The legislation also makes clear that the fees have to be charged uniformly to all users, whether it's Insight, whether it's Frontier, whether it's, excuse me, our other utility, which I still call Charter. So I've listed here from the electric utility, the fees, the permit for placement of an antenna is $300. The annual license fee per antenna is $250. There are also fees, as some council members know, simply for pole attachment. If you're the cable company and you're running fiber all over the city, there's what's called a pole contact fee. And that depends on who all has facilities on the poles. If there's a single company beyond Two Rivers Water and Light, it's $28.35 per pole per year. If there's two companies on there in addition to Water and Light, it's $14.17 per year. And if it's a triple contact with three other utilities on there, it's $8.33 per pole per year. There has been one application received so far for placement of an antenna in the area of 29th Street and Forest Avenue, which meets requirements of our ordinance. Was actually submitted prior to the ordinance being adopted. Has not yet been installed, but I believe will be. And with that, I guess I'd like to invite Brian up, maybe to speak briefly to that proposed installation location. You've got a map in your packets, and to introduce Tiffany Samuels. Finally, introduce our guest.
Good evening. Like Greg's mentioned already, the location's been selected as far as 29th and Forest Avenue. They've gone and done their review as far as their needs go. They submitted their application. Everything seemed fine for us as far as, you know, us following federal and state laws and our limit to what we can impose. So other than that, you know, we put together the packet of all the information that we've gathered from Insight and any laws pertaining to 5G. And that's what's been submitted into your agenda packets for tonight. So I'd like to introduce Tiffany Samuels from Insight Communication. If you have any further questions on their technology or their construction standards or anything else.
Meet you. I wasn't, I didn't come too prepared. I didn't know exactly what type of questions I'd be asked, whether it was specifically about our build or 5G in general. I guess for our particular node on 29th and Forest, right now, the current status, I believe, we're approved to move forward, just pending make ready. That means the pole being replaced by Brian and his team. Once they replace the pole, then our team would install everything at the bottom, and then we'll have a certified power team who can work between power lines, come out and install an antenna. As far as 5G goes, we won't have 5G on this pole. We don't have any 5G spectrum license in Manitowoc County right now. We only have it in Brown County, and we have some rollout coming this way, but we don't have a specific time frame at this time. So we can't even say 2023. We'd hope to have more small cells. We have a joint pole agreement. We don't have a specific number, but we plan on more than one. I guess this is kind of just our first, let's see how it goes. And, our test run, I guess we should say. But
Tiffany, do you have other communities in your service area where the rollout is further along?
Manitowoc County, we do have about 15 right now that we currently have. Manitowoc, MPU has done about 13 make-readies they've completed, but they're doing the fiber for us. So that's why it takes a little bit longer, because they have to run the fiber to the poles, where here we run our own fiber.
You lease fiber from MPU?
Yeah.
As well as pole locations?
Mhm. Well, if we have fiber close enough in MPU or in Manitowoc, we'll do our own. But if we don't, then we have to use theirs.
Are the facilities that you're pursuing installing, you don't offer 5G presently in the area, but are the antennas that are going up 5G
So
compatible?
I think that's where I don't know, when you look at the drawings, all antennas are 5G capable. It's the radios that provide the 5G.
Okay.
So any antenna can be 5G capable. It's when you install the brace. So we can come out, we do a lot of servicing on towers. You can see on the water tank. We come out every couple of, you'll see an application or a permit come through from us, every 6 months, or because the technology changes so rapidly that we have to come out and replace an antenna or a radio every 6 to 9 months. And that's just because 4G will have a new C-band, will have a new band or a new millimeter wave, and we have to come and change a radio. And that's the technology change. It's not necessarily in the antenna. And 5G would be in the radio that we place would be the 5G, not the antenna. The antenna, all antennas are capable of 5G. But once we come out and put that radio, that would be providing the actual 5G services. But
I apologize for that misstatement in the background paper you have.
But when you see our construction drawings, when we submitted our plans to you for review, and you saw that spec sheet that said 5G, yes, it is capable of 5G. But the radios that we're installing at this time are 4G.
It's the first antenna that we've had go up in the city since the new ordinance and the changes in the law. That's the other
So
thing.
it'll be the same spectrum and licenses that we currently have in the water tank. And it's basically just because we have a dense area right now that we're having dropped coverage in that area. So that's what a small cell is forced to. It covers about a 200-yard area, and it just catches a really dense part. And so that's why when you do a node, it's usually every couple of blocks is what you would put a small cell in. So like downtowns and anywhere there's like an arena, you'll see them, and schools, anywhere where a lot of people go at one time. That's where we're going to place small cells. So, but we don't put them, that's why I think there is a school nearby, but it's that busier street where there's high traffic. That's why we're placing it there.
Are there future plans for more of those? Do you know in the area?
I do believe that our Cellcom store, it's technically a small cell, but we're planning a rooftop array. It's still in design phase, so I wouldn't plan for that until third quarter before you see a permit application. But that's going to be on the rooftop, and I believe I'm going to be submitting that on non-pens. So it would be a canister antenna, but it's going to be on the rooftop. It won't be on a utility pole.
Anybody else have any questions? Bill?
Use these nodes to fill in areas where you have bad signal?
Yes, so I can use them to fill in areas of bad signal. However, it wouldn't be beneficial if it's, if it's in the middle of the country, because it only goes 200, 250 feet. If I have poor signal along the highway, it's not going to give me the type of coverage that I need to go 30 miles. So it really only works in, the type of area that you're, like when people are coming here to pick up their kids and you have 100 people at one time.
We have
And you're crashing
an
the system.
area on Memorial Drive that's probably a half a mile where there's bad signal. Will help in that area?
Yeah, depending on where, it is in relation to the water tank and the other tower, I would have to see where it is in relation, triangulate that. Because those are there's one, I forget where the other tower is. Yeah, the east side tower and the water tank, because we'd have to triangulate. But yeah, if you sent me the coordinates, I could triangulate it and see where it's at.
Larry?
Yeah. So obviously there is conflicting information on the internet with regard.
Yeah, I mean, you could find conflicting information
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's the new now, I get that.
Mhm.
But several people have posted concerns on different sites with regards to long-term issues, even stating bird death, human death. Can you speak to any known scientific backing fact of any health issues with 5G?
No. All of the equipment that we use for any type of telecommunication in the US is tested and monitored by the FCC. And any equipment that we use, especially for small cells, is significantly below any type of RF exposure thresholds set by the FCC. So there is no known health risk posed to us nor animals that I know of.
And this, in all, whether it's 3, 4, or 5G, they're all non-ionizing radiation, correct? And that's the big difference that I think needs to be discussed.
Correct. Yes.
Very, very, thank you.
Yeah, it's completely different radiation than what you would get at an X-ray at your doctor. It's completely different.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Thank you very much for your time, Tiffany and Brian. Thank you for taking the time to discuss that with us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
All right, moving on to letter B. This is an amendment to ordinance 9-6-5 entitled Enforcement to allow notices for public nuisance violations to be sent first-class mail in addition to other means of notice already included in the ordinance. Recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. This is page 177 in our packets. Greg, any background, please?
This comes at the request of our zoning administrator, Ms. Berg. I know she's discussed with City Attorney Bruce this alternative means of notice. By the way, the ordinance already does provide for notice by personal service or certified mail. We have routinely been limiting it to those two. And the problem, of course, with certified mail is the post office has to make, I believe, 3 attempts at delivery. And then if the person either isn't there or refuses service, ultimately get it back to the sender. That can take 4 weeks. Of course, the advantage is you've got a receipt if it is received. It doesn't mean that just doing first-class mail is the end-all and be-all when it comes to notice. But since generally folks comply when you send them notice of an ordinance violation, we'd like to have this added to the options the city has. I mean, quite honestly, if you know that it's a party that routinely just doesn't get those certified letters when you send them, that's when it's a whole lot more likely that a police officer or other city representative is going to personally serve them. But in a good number of cases, it's hoped this would help expedite notice.
Okay, looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Darla. Second by Jeff. Any discussion? Bonnie?
I guess I would like to, I don't know, I suppose it doesn't matter, but I think it would be nice to get the property owner whenever you could, because they're the ones that get the fine anyway. And they would be the ones that I would think would be more likely to do something about whatever than, say, a renter.
And often the ordinance ties into the notices provided to the owner. Yeah, you're quite right there.
Any other discussion? Yes, Tracy.
Could the wording be such that it says be served upon the owner and their rather than his, because there's only women in my household.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should not be using
You would get
masculine
served.
pronouns solely in these. Good point.
Anything else?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, so we'd modify that to be him, her, he, she. Yeah, yeah.
Something.
Appropriately.
Carla, I mean, I don't think that's a big change, but good with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Jeff? Absolutely. All right, perfect. This is a amendment ordinance. So this is a roll call vote. Jamie?
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimmy-Lunis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Wahusky, Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to C, which is the 2022 Park and Open Space Plan. Page 178 in your packet. The recommended action is a motion to adopt the 2022 Open Space Plan as recommended by the Advisory Recreation Board. Seeing Terry is off to a recreation, what do you want to call a conference? There you go. Thank you. We'll have Greg speak to that.
Yeah, just briefly, the city, in order to qualify for any number of state and federal grant programs for parks, recreation, and open space, there's an expectation that you have a fairly up-to-date park and open space plan, i.e. that it be no more than 5 years old. Ours is 6 or 7 years old right now. I can tell you the Advisory Rec Board has looked at this at several different meetings. It has been updated to reflect some of the realities that we have now, like our existing trail network. Maybe Adam or Jeff can help me on some of the other things that have been discussed at ARB as far as additions to the plan. But we present this for council adoption in order that we have a more up-to-date plan as we look at making investments and tapping outside resources from grants for park upgrades. You should do it at least every 5 years. Nothing would prevent you from updating it again a year from now if you wanted to, but at least every 5.
I know we have been speaking on the updated plans for Neshota Park, phasing it. We kind of did part of phase 1 last year, looking at phase 2 and 3 to complete the upgrade there, which is all to the playground equipment. Xander Park was another highlight. Obviously, that's a very flooded area, so that's another thing that we talked about pretty in depth. Jeff, anything else that comes to mind? Hey, Kathy, am I missing anything? You're on the audience. Okay. That's kind of the big thing that we've been trying to tackle in the next 5 years in that plan. At least the big things that come to my mind. So
I know there was, toward the back, I was just refreshing my memory. Add small gazebo buildings or change the existing beach house at Neshota for large rentals. Those are longer term things. Again, this isn't a must, but a maybe. Create a new large and small dog park on the east or north side of town. We know the existing dog park is very popular. It's kind of wet sometimes, but it's very popular. And the idea that maybe at a point in time in the future, it would be appropriate to add a second dog park. Maybe not. Further trail development, including dialogue with the Ice Age Trail community, because that's a statewide trail that we have some very nice links to, or sections of here in TR.
okay. Looking for a motion. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Larry. Now, any discussion? Larry.
I just wanted to say, for a city of 11,000 people, I know that's not the intent of this project, but I think this city is lucky to have the number of parks that we have in such good shape, as well as to have Betts Field here. I mean, baseball diamonds such as that in such a small they're beautifully groomed. The city does a great job of maintaining them. I think the city is lucky to have all of this.
Thank you. Anybody else?
One
Bonnie.
long-term, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Well, like you said, this is just so the plan is in place. Just some stuff seemed not, I don't want to say not reasonable. I think it's because you touched on every park. It made it sound like activity was going to be happening on every park, but that's pretty impossible.
Right.
And some of the things didn't seem reasonable to me, like putting fishing piers by Riverside Park. On that side of the river, it's so low. I'm just saying some of it didn't seem reasonable, that's all. But I'm not trying to criticize it. This is just because you need this plan in case you're looking for extra money.
Right, and it's kind of a starting point. So sometimes you throw a rock and you see where it skips to, and you never know if a granting or funding opportunity comes along, and it's nice to be able to point to a plan to say, hey, that's here, we should be applying for this. And you're right, it doesn't mean a lot of that's probably not gonna happen, but it's nice to have a plan that says, if something comes along, the right thing comes along, that we can jump on it. Greg?
I was going to say something that's been in at least the current plan and the one before that remains in here. And it's a long-term thing, but it does identify that we've got, by all standards, I think it's fair to say we have an more than adequate amount of park space for a community of our size and our population. What we've missed over the years as Two Rivers from the 60s up to the present grew primarily to the north and west along, either side of Mishicot Road, is we're relatively shy on community neighborhood parks on the north side of town. And that maybe that's really important as we talk with the school district about plans for the land to the north of LB Clark, which there'd still be a big chunk left, even if the expansion that's discussed in their facilities planning as a possibility happens. That's one that's been notable for a number of years. Just not so much how many parks we have, but there aren't necessarily parks in easy walking distance, easy access in those, I'll say newer in the last half century areas of the community.
Right, they're just not well spread out as we grew further up to the north, which is a good point. I mean, the two that are up there both belong to the school system. They don't really belong to the city. Anybody else have any discussion on that? All right, seeing this is a 5-year document, Jamie, really want to do a roll call. So roll call vote.
Bonnie Chimilunas.
Aye.
Larry Thomas.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And going to letter D which is a consideration of authorizing facade and sign grant program for businesses in locations outside of the areas served by the Two Rivers Main Streets facade and sign grant programs. Page 198 in your packet. The recommended action is a motion to authorize offering the program to other local businesses. Greg, can you fill us in on a little bit more?
I'll tee it up and then Elizabeth can speak to you as well. We mentioned earlier tonight the Main Street program, Two Rivers Main Streets facade and sign grant programs. The city has, those programs have been around for a few years now. Starting in 2021, the city provided some matching dollars. So last year, we're funding half of the dollars expended on each of those grants. This year, Main Street's budget is $15,000 for grants. So I know we discussed at least at the Main Street Committee at budget time, the city potentially doing 2/3, Main Street 1/3 on those grants like the two that were on your agenda tonight. But Main Street's funding source is really from within the so-called business improvement district downtown. Businesses along the Main Street, 22nd Street, over to Pick and Save, over to the Pig, Washington as far south as the Lighthouse Inn. Actually, I should say Memorial Drive. That's the downtown business improvement district, basically a big fat T that is the Main Street district. There are businesses and business corridors outside that district where it might be a good thing. I think we agree it would be a good thing for the city to likewise offer some incentives. Main Street can't participate in those, but we do have some funding from the two sources I mentioned earlier. Fund 290, our Economic Development Fund, has got $20,000 in the approved budget this year to help with those grants. Those can happen anywhere in the city out of that fund. And then Tax Incremental District number 8 at the old high school TIF, which is Fund 237, can fund anything within that TIF district or a half-mile radius around it. So that would take you on 22nd Street, for example, from beyond Pick and Save to the east and beyond the Pig to the west, and the north half of the downtown, just about as far as Rudy's Lanes. So to the extent there may be businesses that would be interested in upgrading their facades in areas that aren't in that downtown bid district that pays an extra tax levy or special assessment in support of Main Street, we'd like to get council's blessing to offer such a program. We don't have tons of money, but we know we have one or two businesses already that have exciting projects planned and could use some help. So with that, Elizabeth has crafted the draft. It's in front of you. And if I could ask her to come up to the mic and just walk through, I'll call it sort of a gently targeted program, identifying certain key areas. And that's a major question. The other is, who do you want to review the applications when they come in? Thanks, Elizabeth.
I really don't have much to add. He gave a pretty thorough description. So what was in your packet is sort of a draft outline of what we're proposing, a facade improvement program. And it really is modeled after the Main Street program and what other communities are doing. The goal is to, of course, to improve the exterior primarily of the building, to look at the historical significance of the building, if that applies, for the downtown and the near downtown. Again, not to duplicate what Main Street is doing, but to support that in areas outside of that. So we can continue with the council's goal and directive of cleaning up some of the, well, paying some attention to some buildings that might need it if they are interested in doing so and need a little financial assistance. So we looked at areas in terms of truly 22nd Street, Madison Street, on the memo that I wrote. Some of these parameters are actually areas that we looked at for the Transform Two Rivers area. So these are some of those same streets, 12th Street, and then Madison in two different locations. So these were just some that I thought were some of the target areas that we've previously looked at that need some attention. And of course, open to any others. So these are just a starting point to discuss with you, and then and look at other geographic regions. But these are some of the areas, again, outside the bid district, but within the, quote unquote, the near downtown. And then the other items within the memo are just eligible improvements and ineligible, which again are in line with what Main Street targets and other communities for improvements. And then it would operate again on a reimbursement basis. So we would need to see what the investments are, and then whatever financial investment cap, we would then approve that, whomever that would be. And then to Greg's point, who would be the approvers who would look at those applications? So I just put a couple suggestions here. We could use the CDA, the Community Development Authority group, which is part of the BIDC, CDA, they meet together. That could be a possibility. We could use Main Street, their design committee, because they do that for Main Street, or any other ad hoc group, or city council, if we want to take time of these meetings, or any other ad hoc group. So that was the intention of this. And then the money, as Greg mentioned, maybe out of TID 8, maybe out of Fund 290. I also just wanted to throw out another something for your consideration tonight and to file away. As we look to the closing date of the Paragon building, there might be a little bit of set aside from that. We do have $25,000 from the non-refundable deposit that could serve. Maybe a portion of that is seed money for this as well. And again, I just want to throw that out for your consideration as well, to put into some sort of investment, an investment fund too. So that's what we're putting forward for your consideration with respect to a facade improvement program.
Thank you. Okay, so I see on here, it has a motion to authorize offering the program to local businesses. I also see this as a draft. So are we looking to bring this back, or are we looking to vote on this?
If you're comfortable with it, I think the word draft could be stricken.
Okay.
And it would become official. I guess we were looking at all depending on how the discussion goes.
Correct.
Okay. So before we get into discussion, looking for a motion. Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second? Larry, thank you. Any discussion as it pertains to this page 198 in front of us? Anything that we may want to adjust, from locations to assistance to what's eligible, what's not eligible, who's going to review this? It is city money, so we should be careful. Larry?
I just make the suggestion, if we're going to approve something tonight, we should at least know who's going. motion should
I agree.
Who's gonna what?
review it.
Yeah,
All the
that's
applications should be
true.
reviewed.
Yeah, that is the one thing that's clearly open-ended in what
Right.
you've got in front of you. Yep.
And be open to all business, not limited.
It certainly could be. Yeah.
We would have to probably change something because you got people that have businesses within their homes. So might have to be in a certain district.
Businesses located in
The,
B zoned districts.
right,
for
because
example.
we could be paying for someone's front door or their facade or whatever.
If somebody's getting another grant from one of the other programs out there, can they double up on this grant?
I would say no. I wouldn't
hope
want to
so,
see
and
that.
I'd say no, or I won't go for it. You know, because there will be some times
That
that they can
intent?
double up.
Well, I can tell you one, the city made an application to the WEDC for the Two Rivers Brewing Company, which Main Street has approved a grant for. So if you're talking a big project like that, or
No, I think that would
What do
be
you-
different
what's-
because
I would think it
essentially
would be-
that money's coming from the state of Wisconsin, not coming from
Right.
us as a
other
city.
local, maybe, I see what you're
I
saying.
think
Maybe-
he's thinking of
maybe a
Main
local-
Street
a
and then
TIF grant?
somebody.
Oh,
Another example, though, I think we should be careful about, because it's actually leveraging money. So if it's a startup, they could get a startup grant from Main Street, and then they might need a facade grant. So, I mean,
I think he doesn't want it to be Main Street's approving one, and then we come in and we approve the same one here.
Right.
Is
Right,
what I
so-
think he's getting at, so they're double
oh, a
dipping, so they get
facade- a
two
facade
sign and
grant for
facade
Main Street
grants.
And a facade grant, no.
Correct.
so that's why we're trying to do it.
That's what he's asking, double
That's-
dipping on the same thing.
That's a very good point. Very
Yeah,
good
that's
point.
why we're trying to do it outside of Main Street's area to avoid the duplication. So that's where it is somewhere different geographically.
That's a very good point. This would specifically exclude the Main Street area where Main Street can make grants. Those ones, the on-ramp would have to be through Main Street and its design committee. Now, the city's providing match for that, but it's still up to the same $10,000 maximum total grant that applies in this program.
Right.
So if that's the concern, I think by its very nature, this is everything, well, it's either in these targeted areas outside of the bid district, or to Bill's point, if you go that way, and say any business zoned area outside of the bid district. So there's not that double dip.
Could we say something in there? Can we put these maybe addresses, not necessarily addresses, but street locations in there? And consideration of other business districts, B1, B2?
I'm assuming.
Right. Anybody else? Anyone have an idea as to where we want to review this, Darla?
I don't know if you'd be comfortable in doing this, but if Main Street Design Committee takes a look at it, and if there's any issues, you know, like unanswered questions, or they're not quite giving us all the information we need during the review, to kind of get that taken care of, and then before it comes to council. So we could do a lot of the legwork ahead of time and then bring it to council for review, and either you're gonna vote yes or you're gonna vote no. But we could take that on, because we've been doing it a while now.
I would have no problem with them taking in the applications, dicing through it and seeing if it matches kind of what the program has been for the last year and a half or year and a quarter or whatever it's been. And then having them forward their recommendations on to council.
We'd probably in that scenario have the intake through Elizabeth's office so people aren't confused. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not in the Main Street area. But then if the council so directs, a handoff to Main Street's Design Committee to do that review and recommendation.
Does anyone have any heartburn with that? Elizabeth to Main Street, back to council for final approval.
But I do have a question.
Okay. No one has any heartburn with that? Okay, let's make sure that gets in the motion. Larry?
So,
Thank you, Mark. We didn't forget about you.
if I'm following what Bill was saying is, you know, potentially having businesses elsewhere that aren't downtown, do we have to reword this? Because if you read through here multiple times, it says downtown, near downtown. Does this whole thing have to be reworded if we're gonna open this up to businesses elsewhere other than quote unquote Main Street region? Because I'm thinking about Two Rivers can be expansive if we're just concerning it. I have no problems. I'm supporting any business getting the facade grant. I'm just wondering, does this goal and some of the wording have to be changed?
I guess we gotta take a
Yes.
look and see what we really want to do. Are we looking at fixing up the area around downtown and their frontage and their signage? Or are we looking to possibly include people that are in an industrial park or farther off, or gas station, hotels? How expansive do we want to get with a small pot of money? Might be the better question, because you could have hotels, you could have anything and everything apply for this that may not be getting to where we want to get to. Elizabeth?
If I could,
Mhm.
I do think we should emphasize the near, like if we give priority, the near downtown, not in the bid district, near downtown. Industrial is not applicable. So it would be commercially zoned, so our B districts. And then, if we were to prioritize, that would be clearly identified in the application process. And we would, of course, we would need to update this, yes, to your question.
Could we,
So
if we
that's my
got
input.
money left over towards the last quarter of the year, really open that up to others, or do we want to have just a set format? Like, say we've only had 1 or 2 people apply, we got a lot of money. Do we want to include more business districts that are not necessarily located close to downtown to try and help anyone? Or do we want to roll that over? I guess that's going to be,
I would say roll it over. Well, a couple of years out.
I was just being,
Build the fund.
yep, I was being sensitive to what Bill was saying earlier.
Well, you have business on the end of Drive, yeah, so you're getting pretty far away. But then again, maybe we want those facades to be in really nice shape, because it is an entrance.
So maybe we just include Memorial Drive into that, because it is kind of our gateway to the city, so to speak. I don't think that's a bad idea.
Not to make it too broad, because it's not a huge pot of money. State trunk highway corridors, that's Memorial Drive, it's Lincoln Avenue, 22nd, you know, the road, 22nd Street, Forest Ave. That doesn't include everybody, but if the
Right.
goal is downtown and what feeds people into the community or the routes, that's generally
road.
highway corridor.
Okay,
Can we identify those state highway corridors?
I'm listing them. I'm
But I-
taking
Okay.
notes.
Oh, yeah.
But I would certainly, you know,
Outside
looking
of
back
Main
to this
Street.
list, Madison Street, again, there's several
It's on here,
businesses.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's
All of
not a
it.
state highway.
Yeah.
No, that one's not a state highway.
No,
corridor,
but it's definitely on here. And I have the boundaries on here, yep. And we can always, of course, bring these streets to you to have you look at them.
Well, I mean,
President, I have a
go ahead.
question. Yeah,
Go ahead,
are we, as these new candidates step forward for these, funding opportunities, are we encouraging them then to join and become part of Main Street and be a regular member of Main Street and take advantage of that, auxiliary membership?
There is a program where they can be like a satellite or an
Right.
accessory business.
They can be a satellite. I don't know that we're necessarily saying, hey, capture this and become part of Main Street. I don't think that's part of this program. No. Bonnie?
It seems to me that the bid district is set. Nobody can, if you're gonna bring people into it, you have, if I'm correct, and Mr. Bruce can correct me, if you wanted to make a new bid district, I think you have to start from step number 1. Isn't that correct?
May be able to amend it, but part of action. Prior to.
And I have a couple questions. I think actually maybe this draft thing needs to be redone with all the questions. Is Madison Street in the bid district?
It is not. If you're talking Madison from Memorial to to the bridge, at least it's not.
You know, there's a lot of people in that bid district. I don't think they hardly ever get advantage of it, but we're always pouring it into the downtown. I'm not trying to resent that, but I'm just saying it's a funny district.
All I know is I understand from Roger, the director, mailed notice went out from Main Street to every bid district property owner this year about the availability of facade grants. So the bid district and downtown really are one and the same.
What?
The folks that are paying, the bid district where folks are paying that additional 1.425, $1.42.5 a thousand, isn't just Washington Street. The bid district includes some, areas around it.
No, I know it
Yeah,
does.
so they're not getting shorted. They get the same opportunity. But if you're outside the bid right now, there's not a facade grant program, period.
I'm not saying that so much.
Okay. I'm sorry if I
I'm not
misunderstood.
saying that they're getting cheated. I mean, like the property we own is in the bid district.
Mhm.
And I'm just saying that people are putting into it, not necessarily getting things out of it. We would have never asked for anything.
Mhm.
What are you gonna ask for? But, I don't know this. And then I do have another question about $10,000. That's a lot of money, because my understanding is you made a gift to it of 20,000. Are you gonna do that every year?
It'd be up to the council in the budget process. I would hope we would, because it's an incentive for people to do things, but that's up to the council. And right now, if I recall, we want to, or at least Main Street, there's at least a dollar for dollar match. I mean, you could
Right.
play with that. It could be 2-to-1, it could be 3-to-1.
It's 50% for up to 10,000 in the Main Street for the facade, and 50% reimbursement up to 1,250 for sign, awning, and lighting.
Right now, Bonnie, to answer your question, the Main Street comes from the money we used to give to Main Street in support of their operations that the city no longer just hands over to Main Street. We now use that same pot of money as a matching grant for the downtown businesses. So that money was already budgeted for in all the years previous in support of Main Street. And this next district, from what I understand, is we're not charging necessarily the taxpayers, but we're looking to get that out of community development, or more importantly, out of TID districts. So TID districts that are already offsetting money for community improvements, we're trying to tap into those monies, not necessarily money that we're charging to the individual taxpayers in support of general operation or borrowing.
If I could, I'm happy to bring back all the changes, and it probably looks like there's a lot for the work session to keep us on schedule tonight, and then.
Anyone have any heartburn with that? I think that's probably the best idea. Changes, she took notes as we went along. Darla, you got one more?
The way Main Street does it right now, we have 2 rounds per year. Is that your intent with this also?
We certainly can do that, but if we have some good activity, I would like to keep it moving.
Okay.
So we probably can set dates.
Kind of what we're
but
doing with
maybe
the mini
every,
repairs.
right.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
so we're not, but right, just keep it, maybe every 3 months, so it would be active.
And I just wanted to say too, that $10,000 sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, considering what a lot of these projects are. When you look at the Weichert building, they're pouring in a lot of money to that, and that is one of the recipients of the Main Street facade grant.
I understand it's not a lot of money to do this kind of work, but if there's only 20,000 available, and then you have more than 2 applications, that was what I was thinking.
Some projects are going to be less than that. So you kind of just have to just play it by ear. But a lot of this is going to, first come, first serve. So on the first round, get in your application, get us all the information that we need to make a recommendation. And if you miss out on that first round, then there's going to be the next one. But the money is going to whittle away, and eventually it'll be used, and you'll have to wait until the next season.
Anybody else have anything they want to add? I know Elizabeth was taking notes, so I think everything everyone talked about was probably written down. Greg?
Yeah, based on the feedback we've got, we'll bring back a revised draft. Maybe next Monday for the work session, but definitely no later than the meeting on March 7th. So we should be so lucky this will be fully subscribed and we can point to some results, because that'd be a good thing.
All right, so then we are going to have to make a motion to table this to next week, seeing we are already in a motion, and that should probably come from the people that made the original motion, correct? Okay, so I think that was a combination of Jeff and Darla, possibly?
No, Bill.
Bill?
Larry.
Bill and Larry. Okay. Do you guys agree to table that?
A motion to table.
Okay, and second,
Second
Larry?
motion to table.
Okay, oh hell, let's do a roll call vote. I'm confused, I don't even know where we are.
Bonnie Shimulunis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Wahusky,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you for that discussion. Moving on to E, award a bid for drive-through window project at the senior center funded with CDBG COVID grant money. The recommended action is a motion to award the bid to Philby Quality Construction Incorporated for the base bid work, alternative 1 bid, and alternative 2 bid. The Public Works Department has elected to complete the alternative 3 parking lot work. You can go to page 199 in your packet. I believe Greg will probably introduce
And
this.
This one is Elizabeth's baby. She stayed
Okay,
right up front, so she
perfect.
can walk you through it.
And she
Please.
stayed right there for us. Good job.
Thank you.
As we know, the senior center is getting some additional work done. That includes a drive-through window and then some modifications to the parking lot as a result of the new window. So the bids were opened on February 15th at 10 o'clock. And as a result, the bid tab sheet is in your packet as well. And as a result of that, the staff is recommending that the project be awarded to Philby Quality Construction, Inc. for the base bid, alternative 1, alternative 2, in the amount of $49,084. And then the Public Works Department has elected to complete, as we mentioned, alternative 3, which is the parking lot work as force account work, which is a term used for doing the work in-house.
And that'll be fully reimbursed and up to the amount shown out of the grant funds.
All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tracy. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jeff. Any council discussion? We've been around the table on this one a few times, I believe.
When is this project going to be done?
Well, ideally, they will start as soon as we get approval. We'll go through the contracting, and then they have to order the window, which they put right away that it would take some time, which, as we all know, just because of issues in the supply chain. So they will order it as soon as it's all approved and we get the contract completed. And then the scheduling for the parking lot, we will work with the Public Works Department, who of course will take the lead on that and their expertise and timing, but at least we'll be able to control that part of the project. So hopefully by the fall, but I'm going to defer to them.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote. Jamie?
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Wahusky,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Delkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to F. F is a rejection of a bid received for Washington Park tennis court / pickleball court construction. The recommended action here is a motion to reject the 1 bid received from Northeast Asphalt in the amount of $280,000, which is significantly exceeded the project budget of $150,000, and direct staff to evaluate cost-saving options and rebid the project. The numbers speak for itself, but Greg?
This one kind of blew our hair back, as you can imagine. We knew things were running high, but there was only 1 bid on this project, which is, a pretty small project. It involves some asphalt, but it also involves fencing work and striping and placement of the posts and nets. So, and unfortunately, the consultant that we used, it was bid out in a lump sum basis. So there's nothing on the face of the bid that tells you what came in high, what came in low. I know there's been some outreach to Northeast to see if they could identify where some value engineering might help us on this. So, I clearly, if we're sitting here with a budget of 150 and this came in at 160, I'd probably be sitting here or I'd have Terry here beside me as well saying, let's award it, let's find $10,000, but at 280, this is just insane. So we're going to be looking at options, which could include, again, maybe some of it being force account work paid out of city resources. Maybe our people do the fence removals. We've even talked about maybe it ends up being, it's a different play surface, but maybe it ends up being concrete work, which we have a proficiency in, versus an asphalt surface. We've just got to turn this one upside down, inside out to figure how those courts can get reconstructed for something within the budget we have.
If we kept it blacktop, could we contact the county, or do they not do that kind of work
I
for
believe
cities
the
anymore?
county is precluded, if not by state law now, by policy, in doing work for other municipal units. We get to go to the monopoly that's the paving industry, the asphalt paving industry in our area. Yeah. And you know, there was a recommendation from the design consultant to leave the existing surface, patch it, seal over it, put the new court hardware. I don't recommend it. The Parks and Rec Department doesn't recommend it. Engineering doesn't recommend it. We've got some subsurface issues there. We've already rebuilt those courts once since the high school left and Washington Park was built. So to just put a Band-Aid on it and spend $150,000 or so of taxpayer money, we don't recommend. Don't have a good answer. We wanted to get this done ASAP because there's a great pickleball contingent that loves those courts, including a gentleman that donated $4,500 for the design work. But right now, we're back to the drawing board to try to figure out a better way.
So look for this to come back at some point, because I know Parks and Rec are still spinning their wheels, as is engineering on this one.
Yep. You'll probably hear some things at advisory rec board and then back at council.
All right. Looking for a motion to reject this, and then we'll get into discussion. So looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tracy. Do I have a second? Larry? Thank you. Discussion. Darla?
If it goes out to bid again, can we have it line items so we know where the issue is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize the format had gone out and it wasn't real helpful to just get lump sum pricing on a project like
Well,
this.
who would have thought that
Yeah.
this would be an issue too?
Yeah.
So
I mean, we dealt with a very credible designer who's done a lot of facilities, but we're just in a different world right now.
Larry?
No other
I thought you had your hand up. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nope.
Okay, no problem. Any other council discussion? Jeff?
I kind of think that our department could probably take care of that project. I mean, in concrete, because I mean, their big thing, I think, is people generally think of concrete being rough. You know, you roughen up your driveways, you don't slip. Well, you can do a little bit of modifications in your approach on how they do it. And we have good people, and I think that they could do that.
Yep. And then whatever coatings you put on the top of it anyway for the play surface. So yeah, I'm hopeful there. You know, we've already got a deferred project with the bike trail extension on East River Street, which will be in concrete, but for budget purposes, we depend on doing about $400,000 worth of work per year with our own people and our own equipment. And especially in the concrete area, and you've been very complimentary what you see them doing. We've got a crew that's very proficient in that.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
aye.
Did I get you, Mark?
Yes, aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? All right, very good. Thank you, guys. Moving on to H. I do know my ABCs. We did G earlier, so we're going from F to H. H is a resolution designating signers on the city bank accounts. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. Looks like page 204, 201, 202, 202. Can't read my writing, 202. Anything major on this one, Greg?
No, this came as a recommendation and from, Dave, was that the depository trust folks? Our finance director will come up and speak to it because this had been recommended. Every time we open a different account, like for a special project, we have to designate signatories. This is really meant to streamline the process.
What he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of on the wings of what Jamie did on the last council meeting where she wanted to have kind of a blanket on the number of poll workers for elections and that sort of thing. This kind of goes under the same, in my mind at least, goes under the same idea. It would be a formality that we would have your approval basically to have the depository people listed in this resolution so that we don't have to come back to you every time. This does come from one of our financial institutions that we work with on a regular basis now. This is the one that we have the certificates of deposit with the American Rescue money. It was their recommendation that they get a copy of our resolution, which we really didn't have one, so that's why we're here today. Basically, the whole thing says that Greg and I are the only ones within the city that can open accounts in the city's name. And then we have 5 signature people, which these are the same ones we've been using as long as I've been here, to sign for checks and sign for withdrawals from city accounts. And that would be myself, the city manager, the city clerk, and Brian Colemire as acting city manager when Greg is absent. So those are the people that are able to withdraw money from the city's accounts. And it's just, to me, it's just a formality that we're asking your approval on.
All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Darla. Any discussion? Tracy.
This is standard operating procedure for any, especially nonprofit organizations. You must have listed specific positions or people to go and open accounts and deal with the banking issues, signing of checks. I know the American Legion Auxiliary, we always have to do that before we can do any banking and have something like this. So he's right, it is a formality. And if the bank asks for, are you okay to do this? He'll have this document to say, yeah, you like me.
Anybody else?
Okay.
I'm glad you like it.
You do a good job.
All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Jamie?
Adam Huskey.
Aye.
Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Larry Thomas.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to I. This is a preliminary resolution to levy special assessments upon the properties fronting on 17th Street from East Park Street to Jefferson Street and 17th Street from East Street to Zlatnik Drive. Page 204 in your packet has more. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution, and I will circle that back to Greg.
Yeah, this is basically the first step in directing the preparation of the assessment rolls and providing notice for a public hearing back in front of City Council with notice to people fronting on 17th Street, the street reconstruction project we talked about earlier, for this year. So this has the Public Works Director preparing a report, the clerk to give notice of public hearing. The proposed assessment roll will be mailed out to the folks that own property along the street and made available for public inspection here at City Hall. And it will be back in front of you, I expect, at one of the March meetings then for the formal public hearing on levying special assessments.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion on this.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. I'll take Mark. He's been pretty quiet tonight. Any discussion? See none. This is a resolution or a preliminary resolution. Roll call vote.
Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Larry Thomas.
Aye.
Adam Huskey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
13 for information only. Greg?
Just noting upcoming meetings, the City Council work session is next week, Monday. Next week, Tuesday during the day, 10 in the morning, we have a meeting of the Room Tax Commission. Next week, I believe it is Wednesday, the 2nd, or was it Thursday, the 3rd? We have personnel, Wednesday, the 2nd, we have personnel and finance. That agenda will include a report from Baird regarding the proposed financing for our 2022 capital projects. So that'll be reported to that committee, then come forward to City Council for authorization. That's all I had for that one.
All right, looks like we do have a need for closed session. Are we going to come back into open session to vote on anything?
I anticipate that you would, at least on the first item listed there. We'll be talking in closed session about, again, the proposed TIF financial assistance from TID number 15 to assist the 3000 Forest Avenue development apartments on the former Hanson site. Would expect that if there's a vote there, it would be to provide staff with direction on terms to incorporate into a development agreement that will come back to the council at a future meeting.
Okay.
If anybody wishes to stick around, we will announce that we're back in open session and the doors will be thrown open. I know we have at least one representative from the development team here that sounds like he'd be happy to stick around unless we're in closed session for like a couple hours.
Bring you to the green room.
Yeah.
All right, on to 14, closed session. The city council reserves the right to enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.851E when deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Tonight, we have the consideration of financial assistance to be provided through TID 15, development agreement with 3000 Forest Avenue LLC, apartments on the former Hanson the Florist site. And we also have to consider assistance to another redevelopment project. Looking for a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bonnie. Any discussion? On to Jamie.
President?
Yep.
If I can, I'm back in town, and if you want to take 5-minute break, I'll be there for closed session.
We're going to give you the benefit of 6 minutes.
Thank you.
Just in case the elevator's slow tonight. Roll call vote.
Paula Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey, Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Perfect. Motion carries.
I'm going to hang up the phone with you then, Mark.